Cancelled.
Schweezy.
So it's time for a segment called Christian Cringe. Christian Cringe is mainly I go on the internet, find whatever the fuck Christians are doing these days, and talk about it a little bit to see what bullshit they're doing these days. So without further ado, let's get into it. This article is called from Relevant Magazine. Just if you don't know who Relevant Magazine is, Relevant Magazine, it's basically a Christian magazine that really tries to be hip, but you can't really be hip and Christian because you're either very racist, homophobic, and racism and homophobia, and it's not very cool. Being Republican is not very cool these days. So this was written by Tyler Huckabee. It came out August 1st today. I'm recording this. Do we have a... Yep, we gotta go over this. Tyler Huckabee is Relevant's senior editor. He lives in Nashville with his wife, dog, and Twitter account. He lives with his Twitter account. Tyler Huckabee lives in Nashville, which, God forbid, fucking my place, my home, with wife, dog, and Twitter account. Fuck. He lives with his wife, dog, and Twitter account. Anyways, though, so most likely they didn't show anything that he is racist, and it's not a woman, because women are not allowed to speak in church. They're not allowed to speak. They have to ask their husbands if they have any questions, but they're not supposed to speak out or be the teachers. So just remember that. So, yeah, like I said, this article is called No Christian Nationalism. I need to fucking read correctly. No, Christian nationalism isn't just loving God and country. Last week at the Turning Point USA conference, Republican Marjorie Taylor Greene called on the audience of mostly young conservatives to embrace Christian nationalisms. I don't know how she talks. I'm a Christian. How many Christians do we have here? She asked the crowd. See, I also count myself as Christian nationalist, and that's not a bad word. That's actually a good thing, right? To underscore the point, she started selling Christian nationalist t-shirts on her website. The godly stuff is relentlessly attacking me for my Christian faith. I am a proud Christian and a proud American, she wrote on Truth Social. That's why I am a proud Christian nationalist. Many Christians, including some here at Relevant, have written extensively about the growing threat of Christian nationalism and why Christians in America should oppose it. But Greene is echoing a theme sweeping certain corners of far-right conservatism where the idea seems to be that if you can't beat the Christian nationalist rap, you might as well embrace it. There are a few things going on here, but let's make one thing clear. Christian nationalism is bad. Okay, good job, Tyler. I agree with you. There was a time fairly recently where this would have not been a controversial thing to say, and just because it is growing controversial now or sees to be in one way politicized is only proof that we need to reaffirm it. Nobody, least of all Christians, should support Christian nationalism, and if Christian nationalism is having a little moment on the extremist fringes, then Christians should lead the way in stamping it out and erecting guardrails to make sure the church understands such ideology is beyond the pale. One of the ways Christian nationalism is making inroad is through redefinition. Some people say Christian nationalism is just American patriots espousing conservative viewpoints, and what's so bad about that? Well, if that's what all Christian nationalism was, then of course it wouldn't be a cause for alarm. But that has never been the definition of Christian nationalism. Christian nationalism isn't just a Christian being proud of their country or holding conservative views. It's when biblical teachings is mixed with the principles of constitutional democracy until the line between them is blurred or even erased altogether. When this happens, being a good American is seen as part of being a good Christian, and vice versa. Such anyone who isn't American isn't living the Christian life as fully as they could be, and anyone who isn't a Christian certainly isn't an American as they should be. Christian nationalism is not the same thing as patriotism or being patriotic, Amanda Tyler told us in 2018. I am a patriot. We can be patriotic and still understand that we don't need to minimize our religious convictions or somehow make those fit into a particular political affiliation or nationalistic affiliation. Tyler is the executive director of the Baptist Joint Committee, and she has helped mobilize a diverse group of Christians to take on Christian nationalism. According to her, combating Christian nationalism isn't just good for democracy, it's good for the church too. Whenever the state gets too cozy with Christianity, Christianity is the one that gets compromised, she says. Our radical Christian values are not in line with the powers and principalities of this state. Jesus taught us that we are citizens of two kingdoms, an earthly kingdom ruled by our governments and God's kingdom. We have to work out what we render to which kingdom. It may be true that some slightly trigger-happy critics wield Christian nationalism with too broad a brush, hurling the label at any elected official who prays before dinner or evokes God in a speech. That's unfair, but it's also besides the point because Christian nationalism is a real issue. Nearly a third of Americans say that being a Christian is a key part of being an American, according to a 2017 Pew Research survey. Just because some ill-informed people out there are tilting at windmills doesn't mean the threat should be ignored. So yes, Christians should not only reject the label of Christian nationalism, they should actively oppose it, because when Jesus came, it wasn't to make the kingdom he was born into more Christian, but to point the way to another kingdom that isn't of this world. Jesus himself resisted political power when it was offered to him. He had something better planned. It's still in the works for his people too. All we have to do is find it in ourselves to turn from the temptations to worldly powers and accept the far better gift he has in store for us. There's a lot of things I actually do agree with on this article. I do agree. Christian nationalism, you should want that. Even if you are a Christian and you believe in the Christian stuff, I'm generally talking here.
What?
That, yeah. About you people here, all the Christians here, I'm like, you shouldn't necessarily want Christian nationalism. To me, when I hear Christian nationalism, because Marjorie Taylor Greene says, I love God and I love my country, which therefore means I am a Christian nationalist. I think she sounds like Forrest Gump. I think that's going to be my new thing. Any Republicans just could be Forrest Gump to me. So the idea is, and let's just think about it here, the Bible says that God says in the Bible, and this is the Ten Commandments, which is supposed to be directly from God. He says that you shouldn't have any other idols before him. And people are not necessarily putting America before God, but they're putting him next to God at the same level, which is one thing I would say is wrong with Christian nationalists. Another thing that I don't like is the idea, let's talk about religion for a second. Take away religion for a second. The idea of when America was founded, because if you actually know how history works, which I don't think a lot of conservatives know how history works, what you'll learn about how history works is that there was so much, like each country had to be a specific religion or sect of Christianity, and no one else could believe in something else or be like that. If, like, say you're a Protestant, but you live in a country where, like, this country is Catholic, and so everyone here is Catholic, but you just believed you want to be Protestant, like, you couldn't do that. And, stuff like that. That's kind of how it started. So when America was founded, they were like, hey, let's all agree that you can worship God or any other gods or be atheist however you want. That's how it is. And so that was kind of the idea of America. And that way it was just kind of like, you know what? We don't have to all follow one religion. We can all just believe whatever the fuck we want to believe. And that's the whole point. But now we're getting to a point with this Christian nationalism bullshit where they're like, we want to live in a nation where the Bible, or at least how we interpret the Bible, dictates how we live our lives. And that's pretty fucking scary because if you actually read the Bible, you know God's not that cool of a dude. He killed a lot of people. And you're like, God, I'm the Bible of God. He's pro-life. I'm like, God's probably killed a lot more people than anything. That's cool. Remember that time he flooded the entire fucking earth? I can't imagine there were just like 16 people on Earth and God saved Noah's family and then a couple other people died. Earth was probably pretty populated at that point. A lot of people died. Like, didn't they say like people were knocking on they always interpret it as people like knocking on Noah's boat. Like, let me in. And he's like, fuck no. None of you are allowed in. God said it. God said you're unclean, so you're not allowed in. So, it's hard to say there. More into the Christian nationalism. I actually think I agree with this. I don't think me and what's the fuck this guy's name is, Tyler Huckabee, probably agree on everything, but I think we agree kind of on this. Do you think he is a conservative or a Democrat? You think aren't Democrats not allowed to go to church anymore? Didn't the church like do away with Democrats at church? I thought they were like, if you're a Democrat or an atheist, if you're not Christian and you're a Democrat, you're going to hell. That's what they say. So here's the thing, people. I know some of you, I'll end it here. I know some of you love America, and you love the Bible, and you love God, and you have a relationship with God, but you also love you love living in America too. You know, I like America too, even though I think we have a lot of problems that I wish we could solve, and let's get fucking these 80-year-olds out of fucking office. Let's get some people who are actually going to be alive to reap the rewards of laws they're making, and not like see how they're going to be ruined. Stuff like that. But, you know, I like chocolate. I like pizza. I don't mix the two, though. That's a thing, though. It's okay. It's okay to love your country and to love Jesus. Just don't mix the two, because when you do, scary shit can happen to countries. Christian nationalism is borderline just fascism, and people are like weirdly pro-fascist these days. Like, do you even know what fascism is? It's a pretty big bummer, if you ask me. You're going to be pretty bummed out when you learn about what fascism is. Just saying. So, be cool to your school. Don't do that. And don't play yourself.
Congratulations. You played yourself.
Hey there, you just checked out a highlight from Cancel Schweezy. Thank you very much. I'm glad that you learned something and that you are now a smarter individual. Just so you know, we have full episodes and other many highlights available now. Click here for the next best thing that you can go check out as well. And make sure you press that subscribe button and press that notification bell. That way you get updated anytime we make a new post or anytime that we make a new highlight or full episode. So thank you, honk if you love butt drugs, and stay awesome.